Deshaun Moore is going to go the distance for a Quad City touchdown. He was trying to hit Puka.
Down that ball right over top of the defender and more deep.
Bain with the snap, hands it off and walks it right in, doing a little fancy.
Let's watch Mr. Johnson go to work here. Always looking, eyes always upfield, but also knows he's got his legs.
King across the 10. King across midfield, beats Cook, and King gonna dance into the end zone. Touchdown!
Well, as we talked about their crutch, and it's like.
And we're back with another episode of Arena Football Weekly. I'm Adam, that's Trey. We're buds. We've got the brews, and we're ready to talk ball. Cheers, Trey.
Cheers. What an intro. Love seeing some of the recent clips over the past few weeks of the 2026 IFL season in there.
Yeah, shout out to the IFL sending us those with permission to use those. Very much love it. I'm sure they don't love that it's on our AF1 preview episode, but I had some time to work on video editing this week, so it just happened. I love that Josiah King return. What did he have? 2 return touchdowns last week?
Yeah, I think he had two rushing and 1 return. Yeah, so 3 total.
2 rushing, 1 return, and they were big runs. It's just, I remember watching him last year, and he was absolutely electric for the Corpus Christi Tritons, just breaking runs like that left and right. Like when I knew Josiah King was special was when I watched him put the Nashville Cats to the brink in that late season game that almost cost the Cats their playoff chances. So great to see him continuing to ball out and just do great things. Really love to see that.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of folks jumping between leagues, and I'm sure we'll touch on some names than this AF1 preview that people will be familiar with. It's same face in a new place, so I'm sure we'll have plenty of those.
Lots of same faces, new places, and just it's a great time. It's a great time to be an arena football fan. Great time right now. We got the 3 major leagues in action: NAL, IFL, and AF1. We have 2 broadcast games plus the Yahoo Sports game, so just so easily available across the board. It's great. We're here. It's exciting. Anything you want to hit on from last week in the IFL or NAL before we jump into the meat of the AF1 preview?
I think the biggest thing lingering from the weekend is Fishers. What an absolute Arena Ball wants me to show off the jersey. Here we go. We got a red Orlando Predators.
Love
14, Shane Stafford. That's a name that Tampa Bay Storm fans and Orlando Predator fans will know from the 2000s. But yeah, Fishers, an absolute beatdown of the Arizona Rattlers. It was something where it was shocking to see an Arizona team get absolutely manhandled the way that they did. And to hear the commentary team, Curtis Riggs on commentary, legendary IFL coach, he was beside himself. He was like, if I'm Fishers, I run the same play the rest of the game. And it was like the second quarter because he's like, it's clear they did not do anything.
Well, no, they changed it up. They said, Josiah King, okay, we don't need to run him into the line. We're going to go thunder and just blow this ball through the line the entire game. And it was it was great. It was exciting. It seemed like Arizona was going to make a game of it. And then I texted you. I was like, I walked away to go to the bathroom. I come back and this one's cooked. Like what happened in the third quarter? It was just
it was insane. And the thing was, Fishers, they could have laid it on a little bit more. Like they kind of took their foot off the pedal towards the end there. They could have hit a 70 in this game, but they know they got a return flight to Arizona a little bit later on in the season, and they don't want to what's the phrase I'm looking for? Poke the bear too much in their return trip to Arizona with Kevin Guy, because I'm sure he's already going to be fully motivated. But a lot of really great games over the weekend in the IFL. Every game hit the over, which is a ton of points scored across the board. So it seems like the offenses are starting to come into form and get their act together. Green Bay looked pretty good. They let Iowa back in towards the end of the game and made it a little bit more of a fright. And that's a theme that we've seen with the Green Bay Blizzard this year, where they have a tremendous first half, and then the third quarter they just kind of forget how to play football, and then they finish it off in the fourth. Tucson looks good,
baby.
That's Blizzball.
You're gonna love Blizzball. Get ready to learn Blizzball. And Tucson and New Mexico. Tucson got out early. New Mexico kept it close. Jerome Johnson did Johnson things. Like you saw that was a gorgeous run. That was a gorgeous run from him. And that low angle was just spectacular. And then heading over, Orlando survived Quad City. We were talking about it earlier today. I was like, Quad City is going to play exactly as well as whoever they're playing in a given week. They're never going to blow anything up. They're just going to be right at whatever their opponent is. Meet them right where they're at, week in and week out, is what I've decided.
Yeah, and it was a good game, and I think Orlando's finally figuring out a formula. I say finally, it's only 2 games into the season, but they found a formula that works. They were distributing the ball really, really well amongst that talented wide receiver group. Paxton De Laurent, he struggled in the first quarter, had a really hard time finding a groove, but eventually they started throwing some screens. They started throwing some quick stuff, getting the ball out to Puka, and it was like, okay, the offense is doing good things when you get the ball out quick to these playmakers that are just so good. So Orlando's going to be a very dangerous team. And it feels like Quad City, they'll be fine. They're way too talented to not be fine, but they gotta start stringing together some wins here soon.
Yeah. And then over in the NAL, Omaha strikes again.
Omaha.
Totally defeated.
Yeah.
And have they named a new coach yet?
I don't think so. I didn't see one at the time because they have a bye week this week, so I would imagine they'll probably drop it Sunday night while some of the other league games are going on, so that it kind of leak it out so that it doesn't get too much attention. But yeah, Omaha. I guess this could count as our off the field comment for the.
I think it's on the field related. A coach got fired. Like it matters.
Jason.
Like it matters to the on the field. All the best to Coach Negron. We've seen him do well before, but it wasn't working in Omaha. So, now it's just, can somebody come in and right the ship? Because we thought Omaha was going to be playoff bound, and they're 0-5 right now. Sitting at the bottom of the NAL standings.
Yeah, they are. It's funny you said standard. That's what they thought they had. And they did not. Yeah, okay. We're going to have to review the tape there. But yeah, Omaha, man, as bad as the season could possibly have gone for them. And that's the thing. Sioux City didn't look fantastic. Like they didn't look great. The Omaha defense kind of kept them in check. But they were just getting bullied on the line of scrimmage, and that's not something you typically see from Omaha teams. But we had a couple of really, really great games with teams involving or with teams from the states of Colorado and Kansas. It seemed like the 2 states were at war this past weekend, with Salina taking on Pueblo and Southwest Kansas taking on Colorado, and both Kansas teams got the better of their neighbors. And Salina looks really, really good, and Southwest Kansas, they did just enough to be able to pull off the win. And I think you called that at the beginning of the season, both of those Kansas teams at the top of the table.
And Salina pulled in some reinforcements too, picking up Philip Harding after he was cut by the Wolfpack. So nice addition there for Salina. Big things happening in the NAL. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but we'll look ahead this weekend. I think that kind of recaps everything. So let's get into the main event, the AF1 preview. Trey, where you want to start, where you want to go, take us on a journey.
Well, I feel like we're going to have our heads on a spike if we don't start in the Northeast portion of the league here. And when you
Dave,
talk about the AF1,
Dave Williams is in the chat, so
I
he will
know.
be sure to let us know.
I know he'll be firing birds in a different way if we don't start with Albany. So yeah, I think we got to start with the Albany Firebirds and talk about them. They're the class of the league, undefeated last year in that inaugural season, and it looked like until about 48 hours ago that they were on the warpath to potentially run it back and do it again. Great roster up and down on offense and defense. The O-line depth is great. The defense depth is great. I think the number is 14 players coming back from last year. So
no, it's a ton.
And bring back 14 players from an undefeated team that won the championship.
There is one key problem, though. There's a couple key problems here.
Yes. One big problem.
One big problem right now, but there's another big problem in that the defense no longer has Ezekiel Rose.
Yeah,
Rose is now in Kentucky, beefing up that defense. And the biggest issue is and it's great because Sam Castronova signed with the Houston Gamblers of the UFL.
Right. Yeah.
Very well deserved. Sam should after 2 weeks be competing to be on the field for that team. I've watched enough football and I've watched Sam Castronova play enough football to know that he can compete at that UFL level and he deserves a shot, and very excited to see him. He's very excited for the opportunity. So Sam, best of luck to you as you're heading down to Houston. Hopefully you could salvage that Gamblers roster right now.
Yeah. Well, what does that mean for Albany at this point, right? Where you go from not just all arena, all world quarterback in the arena football game to suddenly you got one quarterback on the roster who doesn't have any experience of his own, but somebody in the family tree has some experience that he could probably get some help with. So Albany's got all the pieces to make it successful, but the main straw that stirs the drink is the quarterback position. And obviously Josh Kolka, he has to have shown something to be able to make it to this point, and he's going to get the start for this upcoming weekend against Minnesota. And I know a lot of Firebirds fans went from oh yes to oh no over the course of the past 48 hours. Yeah,
he played at Wayne State. Played the most game. His heaviest year was 2022. Where he competed about 54% of his passes for 3 touchdowns and 1,500 yards over 10 games. So he doesn't have a huge body of collegiate work, but I imagine if he's anything like his brother, he's smart. He's going to be a student of the game. He's going to be capable. He's a better rusher than his brother is. He had 70 rushes in college and ran for 4 touchdowns. So that's nice to see, including a 33-yard run. So 6'2", 210, like good size. It's just the question is can he do it? And he's got a roster around him that's going to make his job easier. He's got guys who can win. Alfonso Taylor's a good receiver. Darian Townsend, Dwayne Brown, Isaiah Scott, arena veterans, all know exactly what's up. So the 3 of them are going to be super important right now. They're going to need to win on routes, and Kolka's going to need to hit them as they're open. And that's the biggest question for this team currently, especially since Robert McCoy was traded over the weekend to Oregon for future considerations. I mean, I understand, you didn't know this was going to happen. You didn't know the Gamblers quarterbacks were going to get hurt. And now you're kind of in this spot where you traded away McCoy. So McCoy's in Oregon backing up Dalton Cole. So Oregon's safe there. But now this leaves Albany in a lurch heading into a game against Minnesota. And we'll talk more about Minnesota, but just lots of questions here at the quarterback position that have me concerned if I'm an Albany Firebird fan.
Of course, yeah. And I think some of the pieces on this defense are really great as well, bringing back a ton of production from last year, but then also importing some good production. Chizi Umanakwe coming over from the Vegas Nighthawks last year. He was very, very good for Vegas down the stretch. How will he fit in with this new arena style? Probably in that jack position, if I were to envision how he would, based on his skill set. So they got a ton of talent on the defensive line, a ton of returning talent on the offensive line. All the pieces are there. They just need Kolka to not have the big one. Just get. It's a similar situation what we just talked about with Paxton, right? Where get the ball to your guys. Don't need to be a hero. Just get the ball to your guys, play it safe.
Yeah. It's can he be Jake Medlock? That's the question. Can he be Jake Medlock? Because if he can
Depending
do that,
on who you talk to, that's either a great thing or a bad thing, depending on.
I mean, Jake Medlock was a good quarterback. He was a good option. He didn't turn the ball over, and he played well in 2024. So can Kulka be that? He doesn't have to be a world beater. He needs to not lose the game and keep his head on his shoulders when it's time.
Yep.
Where you want to head next?
I think that the next logical step when you're looking at roster from top to bottom is you head down to Kentucky. And this Kentucky Barrels team taking the field for the first time. Are they new? Are they a relocation? I don't think people in the front office even know what they are. But
no, they know. It's a new team. It's a new team.
Yeah.
It's a new team. It's a whole new entity. It's not a continuation of anything in Corpus.
Yeah. So the Kentucky Barrels, this roster just looks unbelievable. Coach Sed Walker coming over from Billings last year and putting together what can be described as an FU tour of a roster to the rest of this league, where he's bringing over a lot of his guys from Billings and then bringing in.
He's bringing over his guys from everywhere. Like, it wasn't just his guys from Billings. He
100%,
everywhere. He said, I am going to make this happen. This is going to be a monster of a team. And it is. He has built an absolute monster of a roster here. And it starts at receiver, where you have probably the greatest receiver in the modern arena game right now, Darius Prince, leading the way. You have the athletically tall freak Shiloh Flanagan at 6'5", also there, following a very similar path to Darius in that he didn't play college football. He played college basketball. And now adding in D1 Uber athlete Jalen Marshall at wide receiver. So you have three dynamic players there at receiver. And don't forget, you got Des Epps too, to just throw into the rotation whenever you really want to get weird. It's a stacked top to bottom receiving room. And then we talked about the fullback and running back situation. They have a fullback and a running back, Justin Foster and Vincent DeLeo. And Vincent DeLeo is a good enough blocker that he can take on most Macs. And the guy who I'd be worried about him taking on is on his team, because the Ezekiel Rose Mac shift for the defensive line is just a cheat code that forces you to play the sniffer. But Vincent DeLeo doesn't have to worry about that because Ezekiel Rose is on his team. So and Dalton Oliver is a good quarterback. And we think he could be the Kulka of this year, where he just kind of comes in less known and just takes off.
Yeah, and it's a similar situation to Albany, where he's got all the pieces around him to instantly be successful. And you want to talk about the offensive line and defensive line depth. I think the depth of this Kentucky line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball might be the deepest in the league when you look at Jamez Kimbrough, Terrence Ames Jr., Melvin Hollins. I mean, Jamez and Terrence have played together for 3 years at this point. Then you bring in Melvin Hollins from Albany. Joe Golden was outstanding for Southwest Kansas last year. Zeke Rose, just so much talent on both sides of the ball.
I think you're going to see a lot of Joe Golden coming from the MAC, which is going to be really good.
Which is a nightmare in its own. Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's just, it seems like they're going to be running a rotation at the MAC and the edge rushers, and they might even throw some Zeke Rose in there just to really mess with somebody. And on the back end, they've got Mike Lee, they've got Joe Powell, and they've got Cedric Thomas. And, it's a stacked top to bottom roster. And that is going to give people problems, going to give other teams massive problems. Like with Kulka, with Castronova in the UFL, I think that really makes this AF1 race a lot more open than it previously was.
100%.
It was going to be an uphill battle for everybody to catch Albany. It still is, I think. It's not very much of an uphill, but there is an uphill battle because you're still trying to take down the best, most complete team that always reloads every year. But they're more vulnerable now with Kulka at quarterback than they were with Castronova.
Yeah, the gap is definitely smaller than it was 72 hours ago. Like that's just the reality of it. And yeah, this Kentucky team, I'm just so impressed with what they've been able to put together. But same thing with Albany. The question to me is at the quarterback position, where is Dalton Oliver the long-term answer for this Kentucky team to be successful? Do we see Shea Spencer eventually? Is the long-term quarterback on the roster currently? Like that's what makes me.
I think it's Dalton Oliver. I think it's Dalton Oliver because Dalton Oliver 2 years ago in Nashville was really good when he played, and it was injury that derailed him. Like he went into that Clarksville game 2 years ago and was throwing the ball with a dislocated shoulder. Like he's throwing the ball and it's popping. No, this is the story I've heard, Trey, is the dude had like a dislocated, separated shoulder and was in the game still throwing the damn ball, and it's just popping out of socket as he's throwing it. Like
Jeez.
Dalton Oliver is tough. Dalton Oliver is a dog, and he's got weapons and a coach who's going to believe in. Like Dalton's the guy in Kentucky right now, is my understanding, and I believe thoroughly that he is going to be the dude. And I think that Kentucky arena is going to be rocking. I think they're going to be excited about a winner, which is huge. And the team is going to win a lot of games this year. And they're in this top tier. Like there's three tiers right now of teams. And this team is at the top of the mountain right now with Albany. And I think, and where we're going next, Nashville.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, you talked about Nashville, and Nashville's in a similar spot where they're returning a ton of talent, just like Albany is, and they're sprinkling in some really good pieces from around the league. I think the biggest thing that you look at with this Nashville roster is Malik Honeycutt coming over from Salina, where it seemed like he was catching 3 or 4 touchdowns a game as soon as he started like getting going with the Liberty last year. And will he be able to start that instant connection with Tyler Kolka at quarterback for Nashville? Will Jordan Gandy be able to step up? Will Charles Hall IV? We were just talking about Charles Hall, I think, last week. If he's on the opening day roster here and everything is, kosher with all that, that's a decent wide receiver room for Kolka to sling the ball around to. And, an offensive coordinator.
20 touchdowns in 11 games last year.
Yeah, and it took him a game or two to get going in that slant offense.
And don't forget the other guy that they brought in from Kansas, Charles Hull, had 15 touchdowns in 12 games last year, 0-2 in the playoffs, and Honeycutt had 3 in the playoffs. So that's 23 touchdowns for Honeycutt and 17 for Charles Hull. Maybe in the offseason there was some concern about lost production with the departure of guys like Antoine Grant. But they're back right now. Like they are absolutely back in a big way. They might be better. Anthony Duffy's no slouch either. And Tyler Kolka, backed up by Josh Jones and Caleb Lowe. Like, okay, these guys could get hurt, and there is zero concern right now in Nashville at quarterback. And they're back up front with Roderick Perry being back, and Peyton Mulio. Oh my gosh, I always butcher that one.
It's a tough one.
And Jordan Gandy back too for even more size at receiver, and Ezra Thibodeau, Jaquan Artis. Like they just returned so many contributors. They added and reloaded in so many spots. It's huge. It's going to be an exciting time anytime any of these tier 1 teams play. So circle it, mark it on your calendar, lock the door, and just buckle up for the show that's going to be the tier 1 games this year in AF1.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking for question mark at the end, for this team, you got a new offensive coordinator in the mix, Steve Pappin, coming from the Darren Arbette tree. He played for Darren Arbette in San Jose for years and years and years, and then late 90s, early 2000s. Coming over, he was in the broadcast booth for the Bay Area Panthers for the past couple of years, so he's going to be calling plays for this offense. And typically, Darren Arbette offenses feature the run game in some capacity. Last year, we saw it with Rob Jones getting in the mix from the wide receiver slot. Who's going to step up and fill that running role with this roster? because nobody jumped off the page to me. So it feels like somebody has to step up and bring that element, because with these Darren Arbette teams, they get little pieces of the run game going, 4 yards here, 4 yards here, 3 yards here, and then stop you with a play action.
I think you'll see a lot of the big guys getting the ball. I think you'll see guys like Hall and Honeycutt getting it in some big sweep and vertical yo-yo motion. I think that's where they started to do a lot of that at the end of last year. And I think the thing that's going to be really interesting is with Hall and Honeycutt, how do they start to stretch the field a little more vertically? Because Nashville was just a master of the short game last year. I'll always point to, everyone's like, well, arena football, it's all just home run balls. No, go back and watch the Arena Crown game where Tyler Kulka completed 36 passes for 347 yards, and it was all like 10 yards or less, and then yak, and he did have one 43-yard passing touchdown, but it was just, he threw 7 touchdowns too. It was just an absolutely insane game. Like, Kulka was just at another level in the playoffs. It was a beauty to watch, really.
Yeah, this Nashville team is going to be fun, and I wish we got more Nashville Kentucky games. I think we only get one, surprisingly, with them being so close to each other. I could be off. I could be
get one regular season Nashville.
One regular season one, yeah, one regular season.
So we get that week 4, and then we get 2 Albany games, and then we're just waiting. We're sitting there waiting for the playoffs for these 3 teams to show up again. Unfortunately, we can only get 2 games involving all 3 of these teams at best.
Yeah, so it seems like these 3, I think we're in agreement. Like, if we were to write it in pen for the playoffs, I feel like we'd be pretty comfortable with these 3. And where we go from here becomes a bit more of an interesting conversation. So I'm gonna flip it on you. Where do you want to go from here, Adam?
I think for me, I want to go out to the Pacific Northwest, because I want to start talking about, first I want to talk about the Washington Wolfpack. The Wolfpack have had a lot of trouble the last 2 years, but that was in large part because of roster construction. They didn't have talent in the room. We heard Miguel Morga, one of the owners of the team, talk about it, that Coach J.R. Wells hadn't had the resources necessary to build a highly competitive roster.
Yeah.
That changed this year. They went out, they got a bunch of guys, they bulked up along both offensive and defensive lines. They brought in an experienced defensive coordinator in Delvin Miles, who led that Oregon Lightning defense last year, which had its moments, but was able to produce splash plays, which is great, which is what you want. You want your arena defense to produce splash plays. Going out and adding Quintavious Workman, JoJo Olabryce, and underrated guy Marcus Manuel Jr. in the receiver room, and quarterback, getting a guy where we know what Vincent Espinoza is going to be. We've talked about this a bunch. Vincent Espinoza is league average to above average. He can be a solid player for you with the right weapons around him, and I think he has the right weapons around him right now, and will have time with the Washington offensive line averaging like 350 pounds of just bulk and mass and physicality and tenacity. Like, when you have an offensive lineman who's 6, how tall is he? I want to make sure I get this right. Where's Travis Alvarez? He is 6'8", 335. That is a monster on the offensive line.
Yeah.
He's only slightly taller than their number 1 receiver, Quintavious Workman, who's 6'7", 6'6", depends on where you look. He's 6'6", 6'7", somewhere in there. Tall.
Yeah, I think this season really hinges on that offensive line play, because that's something that was jumping off of the screen anytime you watched Washington play these past couple seasons, where there was a game I counted. I'm like, I've had enough. I'm going to count how often this running back is running for his life. And there was like 30 pressures on a quarterback in a single game where the guy was scrambling. It's like that can't happen in an arena football rules game. That just can't happen. So beefing up on that O-line was a must. That wide receiver group is great. They got some good pass rushers in the mix. Michael Badejo is going to be really, really good on that D-line. But yeah, if they can protect the quarterback and they can get a full season of productive football out of Vincent Espinosa, this team could be knocking on the door of the playoffs and potentially making it in there.
Oh, I don't think they're knocking on the door of the playoffs. I think this team is in the playoffs. I'm very convinced that this is the year that this team takes a big step. I think the arena is going to be louder than it's been all year. There's a lot of buzz coming out of Everett about this team, and I think that they made a lot of good key moves. Are they all the way there yet? No, they're going to have trouble against the tier 1 teams at times, but they're going to make them sweat.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be able to score with people is my belief, with Akil Greer, Quintavious Workman, Ola Bryce Manuel, and then rookie Brandon Lambana. You know, there's guys that are going to stretch people. And also recent signing, veteran fullback Undra Hendricks, older guy, very veteran, but knows the arena game, knows what this is like, was previously coaching. So he has an understanding of how to play this game. He's got the size and the physicality to step up and take on most of the MAC blitzers, which is big. And he can find the goal line when he's up against underside, when he can find a hole to run. So it's, when I look at the rest of AF1, I don't know that I see, outside of the top 3, I don't know that I see a more complete roster than Washington. I think Washington's going to be knocking on the door of the 4 seed, and that would mean potentially hosting a playoff game,
which would be huge for them. And I think getting into the playoffs, I had J.R. Wells on the show on the Off the Wall this past offseason, and he mentioned that was the goal for this organization. He was like, we need to make the playoffs. Like, we need to win enough games to make the playoffs. And I think based on how this offseason has gone, it's within reach. Now it's time to execute and get the on-field contributions matching the off-field stuff, because off the field, Washington's been doing the right things over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah. And the rival in the Cascade Clash, in a perennial appearance on AF1 After Dark, we have the Oregon Lightning, who last year were alive in the playoff race in the last 2 weeks of the season and played some really tough games against Billings, against Nashville. Like, Oregon's fun. And they brought back a lot of the offensive weapons that made them fun. The lefty, Dalton Cole, we've talked about this. We joke. It's just like Dalton Cole is a vibe. Like the way he just drops up, sets back in the pocket, and it's just like, oh, yeah, here's a 50-yard bomb that's going to drop in the bucket. But I'm just going to like throw this while like standing back here. It feels a little bit like a dad at a barbecue. He's just like so nonchalant. He's just like, yeah, awesome, great, done. Dimes.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a gunslinger to him. He's got a little bit of that Jameis.
A little bit.
Brett Favre. Yeah, I'm being generous right now. I'm trying to be nice. Where when he's cocking back to throw, you're like, all right, here we go. This is either going to be a 40-yard bomb or a 40-yard pick six.
And the biggest thing is he's got Maurice Ashley and Chris Lewis back. Yeah. He's got his 2 top receivers back, and Donovan Ollie came over in that trade as well with Albany. And Donovan Ollie was very productive for them. I'm shocked that he didn't make the team in Albany. I think that's a huge addition there, because in just a few games, he was just absolutely explosive. So Oregon has the offensive weapons. The spot where I think they might run into some challenges is on the defense, because as we talked about, Coach Milley went over to Washington, and he took some key contributors with him. So that defensive line is reloading. One guy who did show up, though, as well, Freddie Booth Lloyd, listed as an offensive lineman, but Freddie's always played defensive line in my mind. Maybe he's going to play some O-line too and swing both ways, but Freddie is just a beast of a man who gets after it and will haul guys down, just absolute pressure. So that's a big boost for them. But there's a lot of question marks around this Lightning defense that, you know, they're going to be in shootouts. And it's, can Dalton Cole take care of the ball? Because I was looking at this. I want to have this number right, because Dalton Cole had some gaudy numbers last year. Okay. Dalton Cole threw for 41 touchdowns and ran for 16.
Mm-hmm.
He threw 20 interceptions.
I was about to say, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop here.
And fumbled twice.
Yeah.
But but that's what you're going to get. Like, if he can clean up the interceptions, this team can win a bunch more games because he's going to lead them to just some big things. It's just he's got to clean up the interceptions just a little bit. Like, can you get it down to like 12? Like one a game, maybe like 1.5 a game. 1.5 a game with 40 touchdowns is going to be great again. Like, average like 2.5, 3 touchdowns a game. Great season for Dalton Cole. That's like a 3 touchdown pace. Yeah, he needs to average like 3 to 4 touchdowns a game passing and like a rushing touchdown. And if he can get those interceptions down to like 1.5 a game, this Oregon team is also in the playoffs because they're just going to outscore everybody.
It's a 4-to-1 ratio. That's very achievable if he dials back the gunslinger just a little.
Just hone in. No, don't dial it back. Just hone it in. Like, don't try to make him what he isn't. Don't try to make him play with training wheels. Let him be who he is. Just help him be the best version of himself.
Yeah, I mean, with this Oregon team, the thing that jumps off the page to me is there's not a lot of depth on the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball. And I think that's where they can get us into some trouble, even against Washington, where they play them this upcoming weekend, where Washington literally dwarfs this Oregon offensive line and defensive line, where it's like, man, this could be it might look like the playing surface is slanted a little bit, just because I don't know, man. The depth is something I worry about with this Lightning team.
Yeah, I mean, that's both of these teams in the Pacific Northwest. And I hope, Dr. Smokey, that this answered your question about our thoughts about Dalton Cole, because Dalton Cole is a vibe. And we like Robert McCoy, too. You know, if Dalton Cole goes down, they now have Robert McCoy. So they're covered there, which is good to see. That's always nice when you have a comfortable backup plan.
Yeah. Well, I think we should keep it in the northern part of the United States. We'll go a little bit to the east. Minnesota making their AF1 debut this upcoming season, and they've got quite a bit of talent coming back from their TAL days the past couple of seasons. But obviously, AF1 rules very, very different from TAL rules, and I think when you look at the wide receiver spot, they have a ton of talent. Like, they have a ton of size and speed. Jamal Couch, big target. Ladarian McAllister, Clarence Williams. 2024, that name may ring a bell from the Orlando Predators. Clarence
Williams is going to be an absolute leader in that receiving room.
He's a really good wide receiver. I'm excited to see him. Otis Odom, we talked about him in recent weeks. Yeah,
Otis Odom signing in Minnesota is great. Like, that's big. Like, they went out and they got guys. But my question is, how does that offensive line do? Mm-hmm. And how does Javonte Johnson do making the transition to this? Like, I don't know. And it's really hard to tell from TAL tape because he does a lot of drop back, run around, buy time, throw. And I don't know that he's going to have time to do that in arena rules.
It was a lot of playground ball, to put it shortly, where I was like, all right, I'm dropping back. This guy's rushing. All right, I'm just going to run away from him. And sometimes he'd be back there looking for somebody for 10 seconds. And that's just not the reality of what he's about to face. And style fit, I think, is a concern at quarterback, but I also think it's a concern at running back as well. They got Shannon Brooks, who is an outstanding running back for the Arizona Rattlers. Was it last season or the season before? One of the past 2 seasons he was in Arizona was outstanding, but he's a very different mold than what you typically see at the running back spot in AFL.
So I imagine they'll use him a little bit like Tracy Brooks, like maybe as the motion man, third, get horizontal a little bit. And I think you're going to see Chai Hill actually play some fullback. Chai Hill coming over from Washington, great signing for them. Has the ability to make plays, had 6 catches for 100 yards last year in Washington, but also 13 sacks. Like, he's a dog of a pass rusher. and that's great. And he could be a two-way player where when you want to when you need some size to handle a bigger Mac, he's going to be the guy you're going to see stepping into that role. So, and Antonio Smiley also has been around this, AF1 a little bit, spent some time on the defensive line, but can play fullback. He played in Billings in 24 and in Washington in 25.
Yeah. I think the pass rush will be great for Minnesota. The wide receiver room will be great, but it feels like we'll probably see this team and a couple others we'll talk about here in a minute line up a lot more shotgun in this, and that's going to anger a lot of the purists. The purists are going to be shaking their fists at the TV.
I think that's your off-field comment right there.
There you go. We'll count it. They're going to be shaking their fists. But that's what's going to have to work, I think, for what you have on the roster. Like, it feels like they're going to have to make that work. And we've seen it be successful with Salina and Southwest Kansas, but is it enough to take you over the top and beat the best teams consistently? I just don't know.
I don't know enough about this roster to have confidence in that ability. Like, I know they have receivers, but what can they do defensively? Because the underrated part of both Salina and Southwest Kansas was how good they were defensively.
Yeah.
So, continuing, staying up there in the northern part of the country, going to the Mitten, talking about the Michigan Arsenal. I think it's good. Like, we have a very clear, we have the top three, we have the Pacific Northwest, and then we have the new guys. And the new four are the ones that I just have the most questions about.
Yeah.
And I think what separates Michigan from the other new teams, actually, it's not what I think, it's what I know separates Michigan from the other new teams, is they have a quarterback. I fully trust Malik Henry to be able to lead an arena-style offense. And I also know that they have receivers there for him in Dan Williams, in Drevin Macon, and in, there was somebody else. Kenny Brewer has been around the game a little bit. Like, they have guys where I'm like, this can work offensively. Yeah. I don't know about the entire rest of the team because there aren't a whole lot of guys I recognize on this roster. And, outside of Jarris Grissom, who's a great ad, spectacular, can play running back, can play jack, can play, you know what I'm excited for? I'm excited for Jarris Grissom to stop being on the field and start becoming a coach, because no one is able to play 4 positions in arena football and not be ready to coach. Like, he played quarterback for Southwest Kansas. He played receiver. Jack, when he went in at jack, Gary Thomas was telling me it's just he's just ready. Like, he understands where he needs to be. He has the athleticism. He has the size. Is it his natural position? No, but he understands it, and it's just a great fit. And they didn't get destroyed when he was in at jack. So,
yeah, quarterback obviously a strength for this Michigan Arsenal team, and Sean Liotta has made it no secret that he's going to try to score as many points as possible, as he should, as every offensive coordinator should. So it seems like if you're going to be watching a Michigan Arsenal game, there's going to be a lot of firepower. Hence the name Arsenal.
Do you think he's going to try to beat his Erie Explosion record?
I think it's going to be tickling the back of his brain a little bit. That's a big number. I don't know if he'll be able to hit 138, but
we're just going to have to when they start creeping up. What's the number at halftime where we say we're on Erie Explosion watch?
I think if you hit 60 at halftime,
60 at halftime.
Okay, we're on Erie watch. Yeah, I think that's official Erie watch territory.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
The wide receiver group, I think, is going to be very, very talented, very good. But it's one of those situations like quarterback, great. Wide receivers, great. What else? it's like
that's it.
That's kind of where we're at. Yeah. We just don't know what we don't know with this team. So this time, in 3 months' time, we could be looking back and be like, "Oh, this guy's awesome on D-line. This guy's awesome on at the MAC." Right? We could have these answers, but it's just a lot of we don't know with this roster and it being a first-time org. It sounds like they're going to be looking great on the field in terms of jerseys.
The jerseys are great. I love them.
field. Isn't the field going to be red? Didn't they say it was going to be a red field, or am I
haven't seen any
misremembering
pictures
that?
of the field, but I think they did say something like that. But we haven't seen the field, so
yeah. So
you know,
it's going to be a fun viewing experience. But there's just so much we don't know outside of guy throws ball, guy catches ball. The depth on the O-line, D-line, that might be a problem with this team too.
Yeah. Then heading down to Texas, the Beaumont Renegades, one of the other title winners from 2025, joining AF1, and a team where we have questions. Like, we've been very open and honest about the questions around Minnesota and Beaumont. It's like they are very good. They're good rosters. They have good collections of players, but they really ran it back with a lot of their players. And can they adapt to this new style? And Carl Robinson and Javante Johnson are just kind of the same quarterback, just separated. One's playing at the bottom of the country, the other's playing at the top of the country.
Yeah, Carl Robinson was outstanding for Beaumont last year in the NAL, where there were games where he would pick teams apart with his arm, and then there were games where he would just destroy teams with his legs. And so it was like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So play call wise, they're not going to have Clint Solomon because obviously he's over in Pueblo doing his thing. So what does that look like for this year? Do they try to get him under center? Corey Mayfield, old school AFL guy. Do they try to get him under center to adapt to those arena rules? Do they put him back and see him in shotgun majority of the time? I think something that's sneaky good with this roster is the experience on the defensive side of the ball. You look at J.D. Griggs on the defensive line, has been around for a very long time, played with the Massachusetts Pirates for years and years and years, was the sack king. Malcolm McCoy, friend of the program. J.D. Griggs, too, friend of the program. He played for the Albany Empire a few years back, playing both linebacker and running back. So he's got that Iron Man arena experience. So I think they have some players that have some sneaky good experience that they're bringing to this AF1 season.
Yeah, and don't forget Henry Kellogg, either, spectacular D lineman.
Outstanding.
Like, the defensive lineman is going to be the defensive line and offensive lineman would be nasty. I don't know as much about these receivers, and that has me nervous for this team.
Yeah, they have tons of athleticism, tons of experience on the defensive side of the ball. But again, how does that translate? So they're bringing back a ton of that production from that 2025 NAL team, and I know they're excited to hit the field and run it back. But it's literally a different sport. Like, it's on a 50-yard field, but it's just a different approach, and I feel like it's going to take some time for them to get into a groove.
Yep. And then heading out, let's go to California for the team I think we have the most questions about, with the Oceanside Bombers.
Yeah.
I know you've been down the rabbit hole here, so I'm going to let you guide this discussion a little bit about the Bombers.
Yeah, this Bombers team is interesting. Friend of the program, Rudy Johnson, QB1 there. If you're looking for recognizable names, that's kind of where it stops, because they've made it no secret that they're leaning on a ton of, their words, local talent, meaning a lot of folks that are already live in the San Diego area, because they've literally come out and said, hey, this is what we need in order to field the team and successfully get through the season. So when you do that, you kind of limit yourself in terms of arena veterans and folks with that arena football experience. But to counter my own point, there are worse places to be than Southern California if you're going to try to find some talent for 50-yard football, right? So coaching staff has some experience in the 50-yard game, both playing and coaching, but it seems like it's going to be an extreme uphill battle for this group to kind of get things going. And Rudy Johnson coming over from an indoor football world, and he can throw the ball, but he hasn't really been asked to do that a ton over the past few years. So it feels like Rudy's going to have to play perfect football in order for this team to compete. And then one of the players that I'm most excited about that has been talked up a ton by this Oceanside coaching staff is the
Oh,
Did you
You're
lose
back.
me?
We lost you for a second. Yep,
right.
Lost you for a brief moment.
Okay. Well, the player I'm most excited for with this Oceanside team is the kicker, Brent Reese. Have you seen this guy on this guy kicking on Instagram?
I have not.
He's a monster. he's a monster, and he's able to call his shot a lot of times. He's like, all right, I'm gonna hit this pole from 40 yards out. Bing, bounces off the pole. Like, he's pretty good. So if they can get him going on the deuce game, get him going, getting some ricochets off the net, it could be interesting, and they could put themselves in positions to be successful playing some bomber ball, we'll call it. But this team, there's a lot that's like, oh God.
I will say, like, Simeon Burns spent some time with the Outlaws last year, so he's been around arena football and AF1, so he knows kind of what he's getting into. Although he's listed as a wide receiver when he was previously a DB, but that's fine. Those are a little transferable. So there's guys. Like we said, it's going to be interesting, and we'll see. Oceanside could shock the world. Like, I make the playoffs, I'm going to be if they make the playoffs, I'm going to be very, very shocked.
I would be too. This is going to be a big year of growth for the organization, and tune into those Oregon Oceanside games, because that might be where you find the Oceanside W's this season.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if they're going to be able to score points.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's kind of it. We can talk about, we got AF1 action this weekend kicking off on Saturday. We got 1 game on Saturday and 3 on Sunday. Saturday night on Vice TV, the Minnesota Monsters and the Albany Firebirds going at it at 6 p.m. Eastern. This is going to be very interesting, I think, because before this game started, we were fairly confident Albany was going to handle business.
Yeah.
Now I think Albany still is going to win, but I think it's going to be a much weirder game than anybody thought it was going to be, like you said, 72 hours ago.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting one, and there are some pockets of opportunity for this Minnesota team to maybe jump out to an early lead and potentially take advantage of some early mishaps from an inexperienced quarterback. But this Albany roster, top to bottom, it feels like they're still going to find a way to win this one.
Yeah. And then Sunday, 3 games, 5, 6, and 8 Eastern. So jam-packed schedule. Get excited.
Yeah, no kidding.
Michigan and Kentucky kicking it off. If nothing else, I think there should be fireworks in this game. Yeah. I think Malik Henry going to be very familiar with Sed Walker's defense, which is good. And the Barrels home opener. So it should be exciting to see Truist Arena, see the turnout there at Northern Kentucky. And that, I think it's going to be a good game. I think there's going to be big plays, but I think Kentucky's going to handle business because that's just a very veteran team. Michigan's going to be well coached, but I think Kentucky's going to handle business.
I agree. I think Michigan is in a spot where it's going to take they're going to have an on-ramp to the season. And right now it feels like Kentucky's on the highway, Michigan's on the on-ramp. They might get to the same spot eventually, but it feels like it's just going to take a little bit longer for Michigan. And I think 4 weeks down the line, we'll really start to see this Michigan team start to kick it into gear.
Yep. And then 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, we've got a Cascade Clash, Washington and Oregon. Again, just fully healthy. It feels like Washington has the better roster top to bottom. And I think just on the aggregate, I don't know. I might prefer Dalton Call to Vincent Espinoza, but I think Vincent Espinoza has a better offensive line that he's behind. His receiving core might be a little better as well. So I think it's going to be a good game, but I think Washington's going to defend the den here and start the season 1-0.
Yeah, I agree. This Washington team, this is the year. Like, this is the year to do it, and it starts by going 1-0 in week 1, and they get Oregon 4 times. So if you're able to get 3 out of 4, you're halfway to the playoffs. If you're able to get 4 out of 4, you're almost in the playoffs.
Doing great. You're doing great because top 6 make it, so just can't be bottom 3.
Yeah, so that's obviously a good start, and I know this team and this coaching staff is eager to get going, but it's one of those things where you also kind of throw everything out the window when you get Oregon and Washington, because they split the series last year, and there were some head-scratching games
Oh, it's
between
great.
these two teams.
It was great.
You don't know what you're gonna get when these two collide. So it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah. So, and then closing it out, 8 p.m. Eastern, Oceanside and Beaumont. Beaumont making the trip out to Oceanside. I think Beaumont's experience is going to give Oceanside a lot of trouble. That is a far trip. I think if both teams are going to be well coached, who's going to adjust quicker to the arena game?
Mm-hmm.
Oceanside could steal this one, but I think Beaumont's going to pull it out just because I think Beaumont has a preponderance of talent that Oceanside can't really stand up to right now.
Yeah, it feels like Beaumont is, this being week 1 is bad for Oceanside. Like if this was week 4 or 5, I think the playing field's a little bit more even. But yeah, I think Beaumont's going to jump out to a quick start, and that experience is going to shine bright for them. And I think this one might get ugly pretty quickly. Yeah.
So we did hear. Rumor is the Arsenal are going to have a black field with red end zones and silver lines. So I think I think that'll be a really good looking field to see. So,
that'll be nice. Thank you, World of Football.
Yes. Thank you to them. Heading over to the NAL. We're in week 6 of the NAL. We've got 3 games this weekend, all on Saturday. Sioux City and Southwest Kansas. I think that's kind of the game I'm watching the most this weekend. Sioux City beat Omaha last weekend, and Southwest Kansas is sitting undefeated atop the standings, tied with Salina. So the Kansas team's making themselves felt. I think that's a really good spot for Southwest Kansas to make some stuff happen and really, get another win under their belt and just move a little closer towards locking up a playoff spot. I mean, we're all circling that week 8 game, Southwest Kansas Salina on April 25th. I mean, it's all kind of counting down to that in the NAL right now, and everything else is just kind of good. Let's get some good games in.
Yeah, and this is a tough stretch for Sioux City. They got Southwest Kansas this week and then Salina next week. So it's like, all right, here we go, Sioux City. This is the gauntlet. This is the this part of the schedule that you're looking forward to, and it's finally here. So I think that's definitely going to be the best game of the weekend. But I'm interested to see. It seems like Louisiana is kind of starting to turn the corner a little bit and figure out who they are versus a Pueblo team that suffered their first loss of the season. Still feels like Pueblo is going to win this game, but it feels like Louisiana might be able to scratch and claw a little bit more than people may think.
Yeah, and Pueblo is just going to, it's not like they got blown out last week. They lost by, 6 to a good Salina team. So Pueblo's going to come in and be ready to punch. Ready to punch back and get back on the horse here to stay atop the standings. And then we got Colorado and Amarillo, and Colorado, didn't miss a beat last week against a very tough Southwest Kansas team. They came in, they played well, lost by 7. Javin Kilgo looked good, looked like the guy we thought he would look like.
Yeah, we got the full Javin Kilgo experience. We got a dime to the corner and then one of the worst pick sixes you'll see. So we got the full experience in the first half. But yeah, this Colorado team, they're very talented as well. And if Kilgo gets to start again, they should be able to handle this Amarillo team. And I can't trust a team that has Demery Croft at quarterback. I'm sorry, I can't do it. So it feels like Colorado's going to roll. Yeah. And it's just Amarillo's been struggling. Like they lost to the they lost to the Dallas Bulls, which is tough. Not necessarily something that you want to see, but they might have an upgrade coming in at quarterback with Demery Croft. So I said might. Might. Might's doing a lot of heavy lifting there. A lot of heavy lifting. I never said it was doing light lifting. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. So, but Amarillo's, starting to kind of get it together. They're just struggling a little bit to get it fully together. Yeah. And then heading over to the last, to the Indoor Football League monster weekend with just about, I think it's all teams. Do we have all teams in action this weekend? The first week of the season where all 14 teams are in action.
jam-packed.
We're gonna have to bust out the we're gonna have to bust out the Octo box. We're gonna have to bust out the second computer. Like, it is gonna be.
You need every device in your house ready for this weekend right now.
Every
so make
single
sure
one.
everything's installed, all the apps. You got the websites queued up. Be strategic. If you have a second phone, know which apps are going on there, and just make sure you're ready. And just be prepared. You know, you might have to make some sacrifices here and tune out of some games.
Have a plan. Yeah.
Have a plan. Have a plan, because we've got games kicking off at 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 every hour in the IFL on Saturday.
Just wild. I used to pray for times like this. Yeah.
Yes. Starting it off, we got the Wranglers and the Chupacabras. Both of these teams have been fun and entertaining, which is good. I like to see that. It's just, you know, they've been on the wrong side of a couple games. And that's, you know, that happens. Like that happens. Like, what do you want? You're going to be on the wrong side of some games, and especially in a league where when you're light in the early season, you draw some tough matchups, which both New Mexico and Northern Arizona have.
Yeah, the Wranglers, they looked very disjointed on offense the last time out against a very good Jacksonville Sharks team. But New Mexico, they just looked depleted depth-wise. Like, they had a defensive lineman, their best defensive lineman, playing offensive line because they only had 3 linemen, and then one of them got hurt in the first quarter. So that automatically put them at a disadvantage against Tucson, and depth was a concern for that team heading in. So Jerome Johnson, he's a wizard. I think our guy Omar, the Burger Popper on X, has referred to him as the chemist because, you know, the Albuquerque Breaking Bad ties. So the chemist can only do so much. He had 6 touchdowns last game, and it wasn't enough. So he needs help, and it comes in the trenches where that help is going to have to come from. And I just don't know if they have the horses to do it.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, that's all it is. Like, we're waiting to see what happens next. And it should be a good game. I mean, I like New Mexico in this game. They've lost closer games than Northern Arizona has. Like, it's been very thoroughly, you know, Northern Arizona's had a lot harder go of it than New Mexico, but this could be the game where they pull it together.
Yeah, 100%.
Then we got Iowa and Fishers. This one, Trey, has you right in that sweet spot of that -16.5.
Crazy. I think that's the biggest line I've seen in the IFL over the past couple of years. I think the Rattlers had that over the Wranglers last year at a certain point, but that's a massive spread, and it's deserved. This Fishers team looked unbelievable, and this Iowa team is starting to turn the corner. Not quite there yet, but you're starting to see what this Andre Cole's offense is wanting to be identity-wise, and they're getting involved in the running game. They're getting things going in the passing game. They just still got to fine-tune some stuff, but Fishers is a tough draw, especially in Fishers, where they're just absolutely dominating teams this year. So it seems like Fishers is on track, pun intended, to really run away with this one.
Yeah, I don't know that 16.5 will get covered, but
that's a massive number. That's a scary, massive number.
Yeah. Then heading up to the north, we got Green Bay and Quad City. And didn't they play earlier this year too? Is this the second time we get this?
No, so they played in the Eastern Conference Championship last year.
No,
City.
I got Quad City's had a gauntlet. I said gauntlet. They started with Fishers. Iowa was down, and then who was it last weekend? It was Orlando. Like, talk about a way to open a season.
But yeah, that's the Eastern Conference. Like, that's pretty much what the Eastern Conference is. It's a gauntlet. So this Quad City team looking to get back on track, and this Green Bay team is rolling. They're 3-0 for the first time in franchise history. And but what we've seen from Green Bay these past couple of games, strong start, let teams back in it in the third quarter, then, you know, find a way to survive and advance towards the end. I don't think you want to do that with this Quad City team, where I don't see Quad City falling down a hole. And if you have a bad third quarter in a tight game, Quad City could give Green Bay their first loss of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. Blizzball takes on the freewheeling, steam wheeling Quad City squad. So we'll see if Daquan Neal can get it together. He hasn't been great, so that's the thing we're all waiting on, is Daquan Neal to really get it together.
He's had some strong performances in the passing game, but he hasn't had that well damn game yet, which I think is what we're waiting on, where they're getting enough out of him. But I think for Quad City, they need someone other than Keon Williams to step up in the wide receiver room. Jordan Vesey, it looked like he was starting to be that guy against Orlando. He took a bad hit into the wall, so it kind of knocked him out of the game for a little bit. But they need somebody to step up in the receiving game, because Keon is going to be Keon. He's going to get his 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, but they got to get some productivity elsewhere. They have to.
Yeah. Then moving on through, we're grooving. The Gunslingers and the Rattlers, good old Western showdown here. Gunslingers versus Rattlesnakes. And I'm nervous for the Gunslingers.
So am I. This is a terrible spot for the Gunslingers. Coming off the heels of a thrashing where they had to travel across the country and then travel back, thinking about that thrashing, it feels like Kevin Guy is going to have the pep talk of the century before this game. And whatever the spread is for the Rattlers, I don't think it's nearly enough.
No. I think Arizona's going to handily win this one. I think Kevin Guy and Max Mailer are looking like – Max Mailer's looking to have himself a game. I don't know that he's had that yet. He and Daquan Neal have both been good, but we know what they're capable of, and I think that's where we're running into it, is we're waiting for them to go to that next level that we know they're capable of getting to.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Max Mailer. This last year or last week against Fishers, he had a good game. But when you're playing a team that's perfect and getting 6 yards a carry and running for 160 yards on the ground, you have to have a perfect game. You can't have a good game. So, yeah, it feels like a perfect game might be around the corner for this Rattlers team.
Yep. And that finally, no, we're not even clear of Saturday yet. Oh, boy. We got a Strike Force and Sugar Skulls game. We got some games that feel like they could be a little tilted on Saturday. So Saturday might be an easy day to kind of skip around a little bit in the IFL. I think Nate Davis and the Strike Force also, like, I think that's kind of a story for me right now, is there's been a lot of quarterbacks not playing at the level that I thought they'd play at. And I think Davis, Mailer, and Daquan Neal are the three that I'm really – they haven't been bad. I want to be clear. They haven't been bad. But they are elite caliber quarterbacks, and they're not at an elite level right now where they're imposing their will on other teams. And so they need to take those steps for these teams to really get humming and moving.
Yeah, for San Diego, it starts with #FeedVander. If they can get Ed Vander going on the running game, that'll open things up. This wide receiver group for San Diego, in my opinion, hasn't really lived up to expectations these first 2 weeks. Had a lot of bad drops against the Rattlers a few weeks back, and resulted in some costly turnover on downs and interceptions. So this wide receiver room has to step up, and Vander can continue to do his part. This wide receiver room steps up. I think San Diego should be able to walk away with this one. But this Tucson team, I don't think they win this week, but I feel like they're starting to get into a groove where they kind of started. You kind of started to feel it in the first half of the New Mexico game. They let New Mexico back in, made some costly mistakes of their own. But it feels like Draylon Ellis is finally starting to get a feel for this game. He's only going to get more comfortable as the season progresses. So Tucson, look out for them over the next month or so. But I think San Diego wins this one.
Yeah. I mean, and Tucson did had a good win last week against the Chupacabras, which was good. That's a tough team to go in and win against. And like you said, Draylon Ellis has been playing well for them.
Yeah.
And then we're finally to Sunday. And this is where I think the good games for the IFL are this weekend. You've got the Tulsa Oilers and the Orlando Pirates going head to head. Tulsa, again, TJ Edwards has been good, maybe not great. And Paxton DeLaurent has been the guy we kind of speculated he might be in preseason. We said Paxton DeLaurent might be a dude. And he's been a dude making plays, balling out, doing what Orlando needs to do to win. So great to see. Great to see for the Pirates.
Yeah, this is a super interesting matchup because it's a rematch of last year where TJ Edwards infamously had his injury against the Pirates in the Pirates arena. Now, obviously, it was in Massachusetts, not Orlando. So this will be a bit of an emotional one for the Oilers here. And I think that might play into the Oilers' advantage here, where you look at the Oilers Gunslingers game from their season opener. The Oilers were able to punch the ball down the field. It was the last 10% of the field that they had trouble with. They couldn't get it across the goal line until the second half. So it seems like that's something that a TJ Edwards-led team will be able to correct and get going. Because the hard part, in my opinion, is getting those 10, 15-yard chunk plays down the field. And they were able to do that very, very well. So I think this one might be a higher scoring game than we think. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tulsa goes in and snags the win in this game.
Yeah. And then closing it out, Sunday Night Football, Jacksonville Sharks, Vegas Nighthawks. God, I'm excited for this one. I think this is going to be a really good game.
This is going to be a banger. This is going to be a really good game. James Cahoon really impressed me in that season opener against the Wranglers. Last year led the IFL in interceptions, and I kind of had some hesitancy. I'm like, oh boy, what are we about to see from Cahoon this upcoming season? But he was able to push the ball down the field and let Jimmy Robinson do his thing in the running game, and that's going to be the key to success for the Sharks. But they're going up against a Nighthawks team that woke up and has played 6 quarters of really, really good football through their first 8, and they're trending in the right direction after a near perfect game of their own against Tucson, and they're getting their home opener. And it's going to be a raucous environment. And yeah, this Vegas team looks unbelievable. The Sharks team looks really good. I think this is the best game of the weekend, and it being the finale of all the games, cherry on top. No notes.
No, it's great. It's going to be some good football going on Sunday night in arena football. So
yeah,
get excited, y'all. Great time of year. Trey, anything you got coming up that you want to plug?
Yeah, I got a new episode of Off the Wall dropping tomorrow. Have the quarterback for the undefeated Salina Liberty joining the program, Evan Lewandowski, to talk about his football journey across the world and including this year's Salina Liberty team. So very fun conversation that'll be dropping on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts tomorrow morning.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So that's Trey. I'm Adam. This has been Arena Football Weekly. And this has been a great show, y'all. A little longer than we normally like, but this was the last preview show. So we should hopefully be able to chunk this down a little bit better as we're just going to be talking about the action. We will see y'all next week.
Big one for a first down. Lorenz to throw it. It's picked off. Keyshawn Moore is going to go the distance for a Quad City touchdown. He was trying to hit Puka.
On that ball right over top of the defender, and more deep.
Bain with the snap, hands it off, and walks it right in, doing a little fancy.
Let's watch Mr. Johnson go to work here. Always looking, eyes always upfield, but also knows he's got his leg.
King across the 10. King across midfield, beats Cook, and King gonna dance into the end zone. Touchdown!
Well, as we talked about their crutch, and